quiet vinyl. Lena wiped the counter of Vinyl Brews, a small record cafe nestled on a quiet corner of the city. It was late afternoon, the kind of time when the sky starts to soften with twilight. The cafe was mostly empty, save for a few regulars sipping their drinks and flipping through records. The soft hiss of a needle meeting vinyl filled the air, a comforting, familiar sound that had become part of the cafe's heartbeat. Lena was content in her little corner of the world. The smell of coffee, the smooth croon of jazz albums in the background, it was a life she had come to cherish. She wasn't one for excitement, not really. The rhythm of the cafe, the quiet hum of conversations, and the sound of frothing milk were all she needed. Then, just as she was about to refill a coffee cup, something unusual happened. A man entered the cafe, tall, with dark, disheveled hair, wearing a well-worn leather jacket. He wasn't a regular, and Lena didn't recognize his face. He moved toward the counter, eyes scanning the records on the walls. He ordered a black coffee and took a seat at the far corner, the table directly under the window. His eyes lingered on the outside world for a moment, watching the passers-by as if searching for something, then back to the coffee cup in his hands. There was something about him that caught Lena's attention. The way he looked at the world, with a quiet intensity, like he was observing it, trying to figure it out. Later, Lena found herself cleaning the counter again, but her thoughts wandered back to the man. She noticed he hadn't touched his coffee in a while. His gaze had moved to a small, weathered vinyl record he found on one of the tables, a jazz album with a cover that looked like it had seen better days. He flipped it over, fingers grazing the cracks in the sleeve, as if the music within it might tell him something he needed to hear. Lena, curious, approached the table. "That's a good one," she said, nodding at the album. "Old Miles Davis. It's got a kind of quiet soul to it." The man looked up, startled at first, as if pulled from a deep thought. Then a smile flickered across his face, slight but genuine. "I used to listen to him," he said softly, "before everything, changed." Lena tilted her head, intrigued by the weight in his words. "What happened?" The man hesitated, then looked down at the record sleeve, running his fingers along its edges. "I got caught up in a lot of noise, the fast life, always chasing something. I thought I'd find answers in all the hustle, but..." He trailed off, letting the sentence hang in the air like an unfinished thought. Lena sat down across from him, crossing her arms lightly on the table. "And now you're here. Maybe the quiet is a good place to start." He laughed, a short, quiet sound. "Maybe you're right. It's just, everything seems louder now, even when I'm alone. It's hard to breathe sometimes." There was a pause between them, the air thick with understanding. Lena, who had always been drawn to the simple things, the gentle rhythms of everyday life, felt a pull of compassion for him. She reached out and gently slid the record player's needle to the beginning of the track. "Why don't you try this?" she said, a soft suggestion. "Let the music remind you how quiet things can be." The man watched her for a moment, then nodded. He picked up the needle, watching it settle into place on the record. As the soft, distant notes of trumpet and piano filled the air, he closed his eyes for a moment, letting the music envelop him. For the first time in what seemed like forever, he exhaled deeply, as if releasing some hidden weight. Lena stood, watching him. She didn't need to say anything else. She'd given him something, a small nudge back toward peace. And now, she returned to her corner, the simple sound of the cafe around her like a gentle pulse in the background. As the man sat there, lost in the music, Lena felt something shift within herself too. She realized she didn't need grand changes or new adventures. The comfort of her life, the café, the familiar faces, the music, and the soft hum of the world outside was enough. It was quiet in a way that made everything feel just right. And for the first time in a while, Lena found herself perfectly content in the simplicity of it all. As evening crept in, the cafe grew a little quieter. The man finished his coffee, left a tip on the table, and nodded to Lena before he walked out into the night. She didn't need to know where he was going or what he was thinking. All that mattered was that he'd found a moment of calm, and so had she. She stood at the counter, watching the lights outside flicker on, a smile on her face as she prepared another cup for the next customer. Life, in its small, quiet way, was good.